The Duke of York and his accuser, Virginia Giuffre, have reached an out-of-court settlement in the civil sex claim filed against him in the US. That's despite the Prince claiming in that famous 2019 interview on the BBC that they'd never met.
Do you remember her?
No. I have no recollection of ever meeting her.
Giuffre says she was trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein to have sex with the royal when she was 17. That's as a minor under American law. Court documents show the Duke will make a substantial donation to Miss Giuffre's charity in support of victims' rights, and that the Prince regrets his association with Epstein and pledges to demonstrate his regret by supporting the fight against sex trafficking and by supporting victims.
For more, we're joined by attorney Lisa Bloom, who represents several of Jeffrey Epstein's victims. Good morning to you, Lisa. Is this the Prince essentially admitting guilt?
He's not admitting guilt, but he comes close. He uses the word regret, but he does not regret anything that he allegedly did to Virginia. It's only regretting his association with Jeffrey Epstein, which I'm sure he does regret and he should regret. But I think this is a tremendous victory for Virginia, who has shown great courage in coming forward. She is now going to get surely millions of dollars donated to her charity to help other victims, people who are not in high-profile cases, but who are still fighting their fights, as I fight these fights for dozens of victims every day. She also got a statement that he did not intend to malign her character, which I think was probably important to her. And she's made the decision to settle the case and move on, and I think she deserves to be supported in that.
Lisa, British commentator Piers Morgan says it's the coward's way out. How do you feel about that?
Well, who's the coward? Prince Andrew? So if we're referring to Prince Andrew, then maybe he certainly wanted to settle. He should have wanted to settle because this was really closing in on him. Virginia had won court ruling after court ruling against him. The next step would have been his deposition, where he would have had to answer aggressive questions from her attorneys. I'm sure he didn't want to do that. So, you know, I wouldn't characterize it that way. I would characterize it as a move that he probably had to make because he was cornered.
So let's talk about that settlement donation figure. It's not disclosed. What is it likely to be?
I would estimate in the high seven figures, 8 to 10 million, maybe more than 10 million, which would be the 8 figures. I assume he has very substantial assets as a royal, and that's the kind of number that we get in these cases.
OK, what would the process have been like for Giuffre's lawyers to get to this point?
Well, I negotiate these kinds of things all the time, and I can tell you every word would be very carefully negotiated. And often these statements are more difficult to negotiate than the dollar amount. If we can get a statement locked in where each side gets a little bit of what they want and each word and each comma is really heavily scrutinized, then we can deal with the money. That's what I suspect probably happened here.
Lisa, will there be others? Will this encourage possible other victims to come out?
Well, that is the question, isn't it? And I would say she has definitely inspired other victims. I represent 3 victims fighting against Paul Marciano and Guess, for example, and those clients are very inspired by Virginia. I represent many victims in many other cases. So I think Virginia has sort of set herself on a level that she's a heroine to many, many people. And this case shows that you can stand up against a royal, a very powerful person, and you can still get recognized, you can still get acknowledged, and you can still get justice.
Yeah. OK, thank you very much. We really appreciate your time this morning, Lisa.
Thank you.